Hello and welcome. This is Laren with the Fantasy Grounds Academy. Today I'm going to be going over the combat portion of the Fantasy Grounds solo encounter play. I've done several episodes building up to this point where we had taken and put in the content, set up some of the maps, worked on a little bit of the encounters. Now we're going to play this through. So what I have now are Arla Ravenshade, who is our hero or anti-hero. She's a rogue in Neverwinter, and then there are 3 adversaries. So we have 2 Baldur's Gate Night Watch individuals, and we have their captain of the Night Watch, Mortimer. So Wortimer is on to Arla. He has been chasing her down for several months. He's getting pretty frustrated, and he wants to capture her. So the whole idea of this encounter is to run through it and play solo, and where you can actually just kind of simulate what you might do in an actual game. So on the map itself, I have Arla, and if I click on her token, it's actually going to show what she sees in regards to the map. If I want to look through the eyes of one of the others, I'd have to click on their token. So that's if I click on this guard here. There's another guard over here. Then Mortimer is actually up here in the corner, hiding out. He's up here. So I'm actually going to move. But essentially, this is what the encounter is set up around this building here. And if I go to the play mode map itself, so that would be to just unlock this. And then over here on the right, under the actions, I have the line of sight enabled right now, and I have the vision enabled. So right now, this is what it looks like without any of the line of sight. And there's just a bunch of obstacles and, like little things to block vision and stuff like that. Got buildings here. There's some trees, that sort of thing. So what we're going to do is kind of run through this as combat. I'm going to turn these back on. This is to turn on the lighting and the line of sight. So this is looking through the eyes of Mortimer. And then when I click on this other Night Watch, that's looking through her eyes, what she can see. And then this other Night Watch, this is what they can see. So right now, the lineup here for the initiative in the combat tracker is that Mortimer goes first, and then the 2 other Night Watch. I haven't rolled initiative for Arla yet, but this is automatically configured when I added these encounters to the map. So what I had done is created 2 encounters in the last video. So if I go over to the encounter section within the campaign, I can bring this up, and then I'll go to the actual encounters that I built for this particular module. And let's see, what do we got? Baldur's Gate Solar Encounter. And here are the 2 encounters. So I have the Night Watch, just the 2 guards by themselves. And then I have Mortimer, who's over here. So I link those to the map. When Arla gets close to this area, then I'll go ahead and hit the down arrow, and that sends them over to the combat tracker. They're not visible, but they are a part of the combat now. And on top of that, they don't really show until I make them visible as the combat ensues. So this would be something I wouldn't show until Arla is basically engaged. So we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to roll her initiative for right now, even though this combat hasn't started yet. I think she suspects that there's a problem, and she's being cautious as always. So I'm going to go ahead and roll her initiative. So I can do that through the menu, the combat tracker. So if I go to menu and go to initiative, I can roll from here. So I can roll all, I can roll just the PCs or the NPCs, or I can clear it. So I'm going to clear all the initiatives for right now. And then on the character sheet itself, if I was the player for this particular player character, Arla Ravenshade, I would take the initiative here on the front of the character sheet, drag and drop it down to the hotkeys, so that later on in the adventure, I don't have to go looking for those. I can actually find it easier and not have to worry about going back to this front page. The other thing I might do is for the skills tab, I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop the acrobatics check and perception, and then also stealth. So those are my 3 main things, and I don't understand why she does not have stealth as one of her That makes no sense. So I'm going to get rid of persuasion, switch that for stealth. And there we go. So there's the main skills that she'll use quite a bit. And then, of course, her actions, I'll leave those here on this sheet, but this is her actions tab where she has all her options. So I'm going to have her move silently into this area. She suspects there's something wrong. She doesn't know it's an ambush necessarily, but she knows there's guards in the area and she doesn't want to be noticed. It's sundown, so it is starting to get a little bit dark, but there's still quite a bit of light out. So what I'm going to do is have her roll her initiative, and then I'm going to drag and drop it down to the hotkey so I remember what it was. And then I'm going to also roll for all the initiatives at once, and then I will take her stealth roll, and then I'll record it down here in the hotkey so I can keep track of it. So I'm going to go to the menu, go to initiative, and I'm going to roll all. So I'm going to roll for everybody. And as I do so, it looks like one of the Night Watch gets to go first. And it's this one in the back here. So this is the Wortimer. So Wortimer says, kind of in a loud whisper, "I think she's about. Everybody, scatter out. Take a look." So he's hiding behind this big tree here. And he's telling his underlings to go and find Arla because he knows that she's in the air. So he's going to stay there. He's going to hold his action. And what he's going to do is going to pursue just kind of being stealthy. He's going to take out his long crossbow. If anyone attacks him, essentially he's going to shoot him. So that's his turn, and I'm going to pass the turn. So Arla, I'm going to go ahead and roll a perception to see if she heard that kind of that harsh whisper. So if I go over to her shortcuts that I made down below here, if I was the GM, I'd say go ahead and roll it in the dice tower so that it's not visible to the rest of the party. But since it's only me, I'm just going to double click on the check, the perception. And to notice this Wortimer, she'd have to roll a pretty good number. He didn't use stealth, but her passive perception is 13. So you just want to kind of roll above that if possible. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of roll and see what we get. Accidentally rolled it twice, but she rolled high enough, so she heard that whisper. So she stops in her tracks, and she starts to move stealthily. She's going to try to move over to this tree and hide behind there. So I'm going to go ahead and open up her sheet, which is already open. And then I'm going to roll a stealth roll. So I'm just going to single click on it, and that will add in her proficiency bonus of +6. So she rolled a total of 17. So I'm going to drag and drop that down here just so I remember what it was, and if I need to, I can just click on it, and it'll come up so I can remember what the roll was, because after a while, they scroll away, so you see it very easily. So that's her turn, and when you're moving stealthily, you can only move half your movement rate, so I'm just going to move her 15 feet, because she moves 30. So she's going to move up and over a little and hide behind the tree. So that is her action. So she's going to stop in her tracks. She's going to go hide behind this tree. She's moving silently, and I'm going to have her pull out a weapon, kind of crouch there behind the tree. And I'm going to check out her inventory, see anything that stands out that I want to worry about there. And I think I'm going to take out her hand crossbow and just kind of hang out behind the tree. And if anyone comes into view that looks threatening or something like that, she's going to try to perform a sneak attack. So this other guard hasn't seen her yet. So this guard here is just going to move closer to that area and join up with her partner, because they know that she's dangerous and they wouldn't necessarily travel alone or too far apart. So she's going to move down into the area. She's not trying to move stealthily or anything. And I'm going to hold down the Alt key because that's how, as a GM, how you would emulate player movement. So I'm just going to hold that down initially and then move this forward. And then I'm going to have her move here. And then if it's a good move, I'll just hit this approved action. She comes over here by this cart. She has partial cover if she chooses. And she looks over at her partner and says, "Psst, did you hear what he said?" And this one looks back at her and says, "What?" And she says, "Arla's in the area." So he's kind of shrugs like, "What are you doing? You're making too much damn noise." And Arla actually heard that. So so she stops where she's at. She pulls out her crossbow. She also has the alert trait, so the Night Watch guard is always alert and on the lookout for trouble. It can't be surprised while it's unconscious. Um, so that, or while it's conscious, I should say. So that's one thing. They can't. She can't get the jump on him very easily, but I'll still give her the opportunity for a sneak attack if it works out right. So the Night Watch person over here comes over, kind of stands by this cart, pulls out her crossbow, and waits. And as she said, if she sees Arla, she's just going to shoot her with the crossbow bolt. All right, so this guy is going to move ahead very cautiously. So he is going to move silently. So I'm going to have him tiptoeing over closer to this tree. And I'm going to roll a stealth check. So on his sheet, he doesn't really have stealth, so it's going to just be like a dexterity check. And he actually rolls pretty well, so she knows he's there, but she doesn't hear him moving forward. And he actually went over, let's see, yeah, he went over her passive perception, and she's also behind the tree, so it's kind of hard for her to see. So she didn't hear him moving, but he's essentially moving forward. The only thing is it did not take into account to roll with disadvantage because this is an NPC. They don't have that much level of detail. So I should roll this again, but I'm just going to roll another 20 die, and I can roll at disadvantage because he is wearing, let's see, what are they wearing? Like a heavy brigadine armor. Yeah, that's not exactly quiet. So I'm going to go ahead and roll again. This time it'll take in consideration the brigadine. Yeah, he still rolled pretty good. I'm going to give it to him. Even though he kind of failed the second time. Let's see, her passive perception's 13. He rolled 13, so that's pretty good. So he was able to kind of creep forward without being noticed. That's pretty good. So Arla is staying here, and she doesn't quite see him yet, because he's got this kind of cut off angle, so he doesn't see her yet either. So I'm going to go ahead and click the down arrow. And now Wortimer is going to move up and out, but he's going to move quietly. So again, I'm going to hold the Alt key. And I'm going to do the same for him. I'm going to have him roll like a stealth check. I don't think he has stealth, but he does have a good dexterity. But I'm going to roll at disadvantage because he has chainmail. So I'm going to click down on the dis part, and then I'm going to roll his dexterity check. And it looks like he didn't do very well, but he's trying to be quiet, but he's kind of making some noise, like maybe he scuffed his feet on the ground or something like that. So he's kind of hanging out here. He's got his crossbow out, and he's kind of using his hand signals and stuff to try to be quiet. So Arla is not going to move. She knows that there's somebody on the other side there. So I think what she's doing is loading her crossbow, readying an action. And if anybody that looks or resembles the guard, she's going to make some sort of missile attack and then probably hide or take off. So I don't think she wants to confront these guys straight on, but she has to, she will. So she pulls out her crossbow and she gets prepared for the inevitable here. So I'm going to put the hide action on her. So I have a summary here for combat and actions. There is a little button here that I can press, which is grants disadvantage, and you get advantage on attack. So she's hiding right now, and that's going to expire after her next turn, or if something happens before then. And since she hasn't, she won't get the assassinate feature because these guys can't be surprised. So she will get sneak attack though if she pokes out or anything or tries to do it. So maybe I'll do that. So I'll take a risk and I'll have her move 5 feet and kind of poke around the corner, and she'll shoot this guy if she notices him. So I want to go ahead and roll stealth again because she's moving from her location. So again, I'm going to go to her skills down here, the stealth, just single click on it. she rolled really high. She rolled a 19 plus all her bonuses of a 25. So she's moving very quietly. She moves out 5 feet. And now she can see her target. He hasn't noticed her just yet, but she's kind of more or less kind of leaning out behind the tree. And I'm going to target. So in order to target this individual, I have to make sure I have her claimed. So that I do. And I'm going to remove this guy's invisibility or his, not able to see type thing. So now that he is visible, and I'm going to click on him, and that essentially gives me the targeting. And then I have an extension loaded for threat zone. So for instance, the crossbow, if I just hover over the attack roll, that's the threat zone. And the dagger, depending on if you're going to throw it or not. So that's basically, for that. And then the rapier would be that. And then, of course, the throwing daggers are just ranged weapons. So they would be the same as the other dagger. So I'm going to go ahead and take this action, and I'm going to double click to see if she actually hits. So she has a little hand crossbow. So I'm going to double click on the attack roll. And that is a hit. So she is able to connect. So it's just thick, and it just shoots across underneath the tree through and hits the Night Watch guard, probably on his shoulder. And now I'm going to click on the sneak attack bonus, which I want to make sure it's correct. So she's at level 3. So I don't know if that's correct. I think it's supposed to be a 2d6. So I'm going to change this to a 2 because it levels up with the character. So I want to verify that. So I want to make sure. So this is 2d6. And if you actually go to the front sheet of any character and you click on this link here, and then you open up the description of the rogue, you can look at a table that will show these types of things. So in this case, this will show the sneak attack bonus. So yeah, it's supposed to be 2d6. So I'm glad I checked that before I actually initiated the damage roll. So that basically gives her an additional damage amount for the sneak attack. So right now it's 2d6. And when I click on it, it should give her the bonus before I roll the damage. So there's the extra dice. And now I'm going to just double click on the damage dice, and that should do the trick. So yes, wow, that hurt. So she did 17 points of damage on this Night Watch guy. This guy's got like 43 hit points. So she did almost half the damage of his hit points to him, did 17 points. She hadn't rolled that 1, it would have been a little better, but not bad at all. So he kind of shrieks or he growls in anger, like, "Ugh!" So she like tags him right in the shoulder. So that's essentially her sneak attack. And then I'm going to, it'll expire, so she won't get it again. So I'm going to advance her turn, but she's going to move back. So she moved 5 feet quietly, and then she crept out and shot at him. So she can at least move 10 more feet. Then she was already in the quiet mode, so I can move her back 10 feet. So that's the extent of her movement since she was moving quietly. And that steps her back, and then he took some damage, so that's going to pass her turn. So his ally says, "What happened?" And he's like, "What do you mean what happened? I just got shot in the shoulder. Didn't you see?" So she comes kind of booking out from around the corner. So I'm going to take her visibility and turn it on. And then I'm going to have her dash over to her friend. She can move 60 feet instead of just 30. She moves over to here and then down here to kind of see what's going on. So she moves about and she looks over and she sees Arla standing there with her crossbow. So she returns fire. She has a light crossbow. So I'm going to just drag and drop this quickly onto Arla, and we'll see what happens. Wow. Luckily, she was at disadvantage because Arla is basically she was hidden. So she kind of, basically made that guard kind of caught off guard, sort of thing. So she missed. Had she not, it dropped a 20 here. So she would have got a critical hit. In this case, she didn't make it. So I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop, or I'm going to do nothing but say, hey, get over here. Arla, we know you're here. So she's kind of shouting at her and waving up and down. That bolt looked like it was going to hit Arla, but actually went up and over her head. Had it not, it probably would have hit her right in the forehead. So that's her turn. So she's going to reload her crossbow. And let me look. She has a multi-attack, so she only gets one ranged attack. So she's pretty much done. And since she actually did a dash, she really wasn't supposed to get an attack, but I just gave her one in. So anyhow, she missed anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the down arrow. I wanted it to be more dramatic, even though technically in the rules you're not supposed to attack after a dash, but I like the effect of it, the storytelling aspect of it, so I kind of bend the rules there, kind of give it the hand wave. So the next Night Watch person is going to, the guy that got hit, he is going to move back a little and return fire, so I'm going to have him move back here. And then I'm going to have him target Arla. And then I'm going to have him do the same. But I want to make sure that I'm going to move the hide action off of Arla so it doesn't affect the rest of the rounds. That's good. And now I'm going to have him attack. So double click on attack. Oh, it almost rolled a 20. But anyways, he rolled a 5 total, so he missed. So he kind of swears to himself, and he's kind of wincing because of the pain in his shoulder. And now Wortimer is considering what he's going to do. I think what he's going to do, instead of trying to confront her, is he's going to go get more help. So rather than engaging with her, he's going to go around this building and get a couple more guards, kind of try to trap her. So in his turn, I'm going to remove him from the combat tracker, and he's going to go get more help. So I'm going to roll a d4. And in about another round, the other guards are going to show up. So that's one of his actual features, is he can summon more guards. So she's going to have her hands full here. She doesn't take care of these animals. So now it's her turn. So what I'm going to have her do is take and pull out her rapier and have her go in for the kill. She knows that well, actually, she's got distance there. So what I'll do is I'll back her up, and then I'll just do another attack roll with her hand crossbow. She already has this guy targeted, so he's kind of out of her range, but she can hit the other guy. So that's what's nice about this threat range. So let me hold down the Alt key, untarget that guy, and I'm going to target this guy, this person. So let me see. Target her. So I can do that in the combat tracker. I can drag this and drag it on there and then get rid of the guy. I'm going to back roll. So she is just outside of their hand crossbow. Just in there, so she'll make it. Oh yeah, that's a hit. And let's see the damage that does. Not much, but better than nothing. So she did 5 points of damage to the other guard. And that guard's all mad, and she's trying to kind of fidget with her crossbow to get it loaded to return fire. So she's already kind of pissed off at Arla, so she's going to engage Arla with her short blade. So she's going to bum rush her. Kind of has a rage fit type thing, and so she kind of runs over, or kind of jaunts over. I wouldn't say run. So she can meet her there. She's at the full length of her movement. She gets a multi-attack, so she gets 2 longsword attacks. So first attack, she swings her blade, and it connects. It hits Arla pretty, and it does, wow, 6 points of damage. And then her next attack is to connect, hopefully. Oh, nope, Arla is able to kind of like dance around and kind of back off, so she only got hit once. So that's the guard's turn. The other guard is going to keep shooting at her with his light crossbow. And that is a hit. So it says tick, and it connects with her. Doesn't do much damage, but it grazes off her shoulder and kind of makes her wince a little bit of pain. That's essentially how the combat for the first few rounds went. Now I'm going to go to the top of the order by clicking next actor. And now it's still on Arla. So she's got this lady targeted, which isn't necessary anymore. So I can actually targets. And then what I'll do is I'll just have her pull out a rapier. She's going to use her rapier sword and drag and drop this on the Night Watch. And that is a hit. So she kind of weaves in there and stabs her with the rapier sword. And that does see how much damage it'll. She just hasn't rolled very well with damages, but she did a kind of like just kind of jabbed her in the side, and it does 5 points. So as you can see here, this is kind of a deadly counter for Arla. She only has 23 hit points. Both of these guards have 43. They've only taken some damage, so this may not be. Might have to disengage. Okay, so this is the attack from the guard that is engaging her with the sword. Again, she's going to take her blade and swing it at Arla. And this time it misses, so Arla is able to kind of dodge aside from that. And the second attack, she lunges in with her blade and misses again. So Arla is just kind of dodging and weaving to get away from the long sword of Baldur's Gate Night Watch. This other guy's, again, he's just going to cock the gun back and shoot. The light crossbow, I should say. And he's able to connect. Wow, he's getting really lucky. And she takes another 4 points of damage. So she's kind of getting stacked up here. She's like halfway to her hit points, so that's not good. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the down arrow, and I'm going to have him actually move back a little bit. I'm going to move here. That's the end of his turn. So Arla is going to move here, so that way cuts off the angle from this guy, so he has to shoot through his ally. That'll give him a -2 to hit. So she knows how to position herself, and then I'm going to have her do one more attack roll against this guard, and if it doesn't work out, she's going to probably the next round get the heck out of here. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this rapier attack to the Night Watch guard. And that is a hit. So let's hopefully she doesn't roll a 1 this time. A 2, okay. Well, she did a little bit more damage, and that did bring this Night Watch to 16 damage out of 43. The other guys has 17 out. So she's doing okay, but not so great. 2 more sword attacks, so she's not really in a good position here. Of course, it's a 20, so the guard scores a critical hit on her. And now let's see what happens. Yikes. So Arla is now dead, or prone and conscious. She's prone and unconscious, not unprone and conscious. I don't know where I got that from. So this guard immediately comes over to check on her, moves over there, kneels down, and starts to search her. The other guard is going to move closer, so I'm going to have him run over. And again, I'm just going to hold the Alt key. Just going to dash over to the to the scene here. So they're both checking her out. She's not completely dead, but she is unconscious. Fantasy Grounds automatically rolled her death save. She saved on that round. So what they're doing is going to take them a couple rounds to search her body. They're looking for evidence or something like that. So she made her next death save. So that's the next round. And at this time, Wortimer probably be showing up at this time. So he's probably saying, "Oh, you got her. Took her down." And this time she failed her death save. So now Mortimer's over there checking her out, and it's got a couple more guards with him. So he's going to tell them to bind her wounds, and she actually automatically saved there. She's stable, but she's still unconscious. So it's going to take her roughly about 4 hours to become fully conscious and aware. So she's going to wake up in a prison cell is what's going to happen. But if you were to remove her off of this map, being that before she was stable, so if I remove the stable thing here and I right click and delete her off of this board here, it leaves behind this little blood splatter here, which is part of the new feature from the new changes that were done recently. This feature comes from the Savage Worlds rule set, where when you kill somebody and you take them off the combat tracker, it leaves behind this little blood splatter. So you can take those and customize them. You can make it like a tombstone or like a gravestone. If I go to options and then I come over here to death markers, you can change the color. So for humanoids, I got it changed to green. I can change it to red. And then for the marker set, you can modify them and replace them with your own. You can put a custom asset here. So if you've got your own colors or your own shapes or whatever, you can do that. Or you can use these built-in ones that kind of have these tombstones or skulls or whatever. Saw someone cleverly found a way to, they took a body shot of an individual and kind of made it look like their character. So when they went down, it shows them laying on the ground with blood coming out. It was pretty cool looking. But anyway, so this is just a preliminary type thing where you can test your encounters or you can play solo. And in this case, it looks like we lost this objective. So the idea around this was there was 3 objectives, and they're going to be short little encounters like this. And what I was hoping is that one DM and one player could play, or you could play by yourself, and you could go through these short encounters. It might have taken a little longer had she had more hit points, but nonetheless, if I go through and take a look at our notes here, so if I go to the story entries for this campaign, and then take a look at what I had here. Let's see, this is solo play encounters. So this is basically the way I had this set up was that using Fantasy Grounds, we'll do the solo play encounter. It takes place in the Forgotten Realms and the city of Baldur's Gate. The other videos I did before, we kind of went through how to build the maps and all the assets and the tokens and everything. And then what we did is, so we made the assets, then we kind of showed how to import those in other episodes. Made some tables, we had some NPCs built, we made some handouts, those sort of things. The second part, set up the encounter, all that kind of thing, and then we went into the third part where we did the maps and the actual building the encounters, and then this last one is the actual playthrough fight type thing. So this all that work, kind of culminates into this, but there's supposed to be 3 other actions or 3 other events after this, or maybe 2 others. There was supposed to be 3 total. But what happens if you make all 3 events happen, like you can do them into any order, but basically if you make that objective, then if you do like you beat 2 out of 3 or whatever, then you move to the next area on the map. And that's kind of how I had this set up. And what we'll say is that she must have either broken out or she was let go because it didn't have enough evidence on her. So even though she's wounded, maybe they gave her they didn't have any choice but to let her out. Maybe she had a benefactor come in and actually free her from jail, so we can kind of keep the story going, but also play into the objective. So I think the next objective will be more or less like a theft type thing. So this one was more like stealth and sneaking around. The next one will be a little bit more stealth, but we'll have her going to an open market, maybe pickpocketing somebody, and then trying to get away. And then the other one will be a lot more deadly, where she has to work with another ally, and they're going to climb up a building and steal someone's stuff. It's just things like that to kind of make it more interesting and kind of change it up. And so it's not always just hack and slash combat. But I did want to show some of the work that went into this in the previous episode. So that's what I have for this evening. I don't want to make this go on too much longer. If you guys have any questions, you can ask after the video in the description on YouTube. This will go up there. Most of the resources, if not all, are going to be mentioned there. And also, this character is also made into an NPC. So if I wanted to take a character and make them one of the city guards and try to capture Arla, that would also be a way that you can play. So I kind of made this two-sided, where you can either play as the rogue or the law enforcement, or a mixture of both, however you want to do it. But I made it so you have NPCs and players for both sides of the fence. So that way, if you don't want to play a dastardly rogue, you can play a law enforcement. Or if you want to get away from goody two-shoe stuff and play the rogue, you can. So I kind of made it that way so it's a lot funner. You have a higher replay value, and there's a lot more use of all the work and the assets that you've built. Because I don't know how many times I've created stuff and I use it for like 5 minutes. That's crazy. So I wanted to make it to where if I'm going to put all this work in, I'd like to make it useful. And in this case, I'm actually using it to help the community learn how to use Fantasy Grounds and stuff. But so it's not a total loss. But it was just me by myself. I'd want to use this more than once. If I was making an adventure and for sale, I would really want it to be fun and useful and have more than one way to play it, so it's not limited to just one single way. I also made some tables that I forgot to employ, and what these were to make this a little bit more interesting. So when you're playing this, you can actually have more fun and have more randomness going, and then have some kind of way that you can start off with a really cool piece of equipment instead of always having the same stuff every time. So you could essentially have a whole bunch of really cool items or such if you wanted to, so that when you're playing, maybe Arla would start off with a smoke bomb or a rope and a grappling hook, something like that, so she'd climb up the building, or whatever it would be to make it fun. That would be a way that you can kind of expand on this, so that when you start the adventure, you roll on the table and it gives you an item that you can put in your inventory that you can use to help you with the scenario. And it's cumulative, so if I go to the next area, then I get keep the item I picked from last time, because maybe I didn't get to use it. So that way you can reuse it in a different part of your objectives. So I want to see if I still have that table available. So if I'm going to go into the story entry, here's the starting equipment, and here's the table. So this is the random equipment that I had. If you roll on the table, it creates this this treasure here, which is called a parcel. And then I would just drag and drop this into her inventory. So in this case, this is 3 throwing daggers. So if I drop this in here, it's going to add that to her inventory. And now she has a total of 6 throwing daggers because she already had 3. So on her actions tab, I would update this to 6. So these are just some of the things you can do to kind of spice the game up. And then there's a poisoner kit, there's a disguise kit, grappling hook, 2 smoke bombs, dark vision goggles, and then the throwing daggers. So these are just random things that you roll before the adventure or at the end, maybe. And when you go to your next objective, you'll have more tools, and it accumulates. And the one thing I'd say is it says to roll at the beginning of the objective for PC Assassin, but if you wanted to, you can roll at the end. So she got more throwing daggers. So instead of engaging from face-to-face kind of combat melee, she might be up in a vantage point on top of the roof throwing knives down at them or something like that. It'd be a lot more survivable. So it has a little description of what's in that, and then on the third part, we did the NPC. So not only do I have her as a player character, but I also have her in NPC format. So I was saying earlier, you can have this set up to where you can use this in different ways. So anyhow, that's what I have for today. Watch the other videos if you haven't already. I'm going to put them in a playlist. So there's like 5 videos altogether. And they're not too long. Like one of them might be a little over an hour, but most of them are, within 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So take care, everyone. Have a good week, and I'll see you around. And if you are about tomorrow around this time or a little earlier, I'm going to be running a map tools class where we're going to show how to do this line of sight stuff on the maps. It's not such a daunting task. Is all this stuff? I put this in myself. This wasn't very hard because it's all outdoor. It's just obstacles, nothing fancy.